Just lost your video. Okay, you're back.
All right.
We're live.
Are we starting?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, every once in a while you get a little bit of the jitter, so we appreciate you being patient. My name is Andrew Snorton. I'll be sitting in for our usual host, Shenita, for Life with Shenita tonight. And tonight's conversation is going to be a little bit different from what we normally do. Is we're going to keep it free flowing, in the mood and movement and spirit of what kind of sort of goes down at the barbershop. But before we get into what we're going to get ready to get into, I want to make sure that one of our guests, Mr. Wendell Hollins, takes a moment to introduce himself. Wendell, how are you doing this evening?
Doing absolutely fantastic, Andrew. Great to be back in the barber shop. People in here, in and out, selling stuff, getting good haircuts, getting great conversation. Looking forward to this event tonight. I am Wendell Limitless Hollins. We got a podcast coming up. I do live events. I just did one to raise awareness about prostate cancer this past Saturday called Triple F, Family, Friends, and Fun. Teaching people about prostate cancer. Had my urologist on there, my 91-year-old uncle who had surgery back in the 70s, and also live entertainment from a guy that used to play with Barry White overseas. So in the words of James Brown, we had a funky good time while learning about prostate cancer.
Well, I tell you what, but you know what? It's interesting you talk about that because one of the first things that came to mind is health and wellness. And you've probably heard the phrase health is wealth. And like you just talked about, prostate cancer is one of the big things. Let me start off by asking you, when you hear the quote, health is wealth, what does that mean to you?
For some reason, I immediately think about Steve Jobs, right? He was worth $1 trillion. That's a new word I just made up with here in the barbershop, $1 trillion. But I think he will at least give half of it up to have his health right now. Because right now, his view does not change. His scenery does not change, but mine does. So health is wealth to me is without your health, you don't have any wealth, right? You're sitting up on a ventilator, you're dead, you're in pain, and you're suffering. And I'd rather have a clear mind and peace of mind with beautiful health. Nothing wrong with money. Love money. But if it comes between money and me being in ICU, I'll take being healthy and broke.
So, in other words, it's not how deep your pockets are lined, it's just how well you're watching yourself in regards to what you eat, what you do with your fitness, and things along those lines. So, let me ask you this, partner. You
Yes,
talked about
sir.
health and wealth means to you. What would you say outside of prostate? What do you think is a key health issue that we don't talk about until after something pops off?
One of the key things is just importance of an annual physical, something as simple as that. I mean, I'm a strong proponent, not just about prostate cancer, about men's health. Go there and get it caught early, right? Go up there and do what you need to do, get it caught early. But even in the interim between your annual physical, do the 3 basic things. Eat okay, exercise okay, right? Keep your stress level down okay. I didn't say perfect, but keep it down okay. Manage it, be real with yourself, but just don't be selfish and just kill yourself for no reason by eating the wrong foods, not drinking water, and not exercising.
So let me ask you this, and I pause interrupting. You talk about eating the right foods. In other words, I can't eat, the grits and gravy or pickled pig feet or anything that type of stuff. Like what's good? Because I think as long as it tastes good, it makes me feel good. So what can't I eat?
Well, my favorite smoothie, I've got to cut back on it. This is humor. My favorite smoothie is a strawberry chitlin and pig feet smoothie with strawberry syrup. So I've got to give that up. So, but all kidding aside, you just have to monitor what you eat. One of the beautiful things that we have now, growing up, we had Encyclopedia Britannica, 24 bound books that were obsolete when they were printed. But now you've got Google. So Google eating healthy, find out what works right for you. and customize your diet according to that.
See, when you said Encyclopedia Britannica, I thought you were going to break out Encyclopedia Brown like back in the day. So I don't know. We might need Encyclopedia Brown, but okay. So you talked about, the food. So like you said, staying healthy. So in other words, like if I want to do, pull-ups, in other words, me pulling up my spoon or my fork and putting my, that's good enough, right? Because that's still doing push and pull. Like what are you talking about?
Well, yeah, the forklifts work. The 12-ounce curls, they work too. But what I'm talking about is actually eating vegetables. Leafy green vegetables, especially, are very, very good for you. One of the best drinks out is free. You can buy it in stores now, but a long time ago they were free. And it's called water, H2O. People say, well, I can't afford to go to a gym. Well, guess what? Back in the day, they didn't have a gym. They did this little thing that just came out in 2022 called walking. Take a walk around the neighborhood. Get that heart pumping.
So in other words, just go ahead and walk it out if you can't work it out. Is that what you're telling us?
That song say, "Walk it out." You know that song, "Walk It Out."
Oh, now don't hurt yourself. I don't have any aspirin cream or Epsom salt to help you out. I'm not gonna be held responsible. You pull something.
Hey, I'm 64 years old and I can dance all night long.
Well, good thing nighttime is coming soon. I know, hey, this is what we do now. We're being serious because we want to share information, but we're showing off a little bit more of a humorous side because I hear laughter is the best sort of medicine. So given that you got a head start on me, I'm sure you have produced plenty of laughs and smiles in your day.
Oh, yeah, I keep it laughing. The best way to handle a difficult subject is with humor, right? I mean, whether it's health, whether it's relationships, all kind of men's issues, with humor. That's why the people came into the barbershop, right? You got the guy in the corner, he's asleep in the corner, but he hears everything, wakes up and comments. You got your barber, you come in, you got a 12 o'clock appointment. You know he's not going to be there till 2 o'clock, but you sit there, you enjoy the conversation. So you use humor to get points across and also to listen and also to learn and also to reach men. We need to laugh.
You make a good point because you can only mean mug for so long. Look at here, mean mugging might look good for Halloween. Can't be all stuck on mad and ugly all the time. Like, so, I don't know. I'm just saying, every once in a while you do have to loosen up and lighten up. But you said something that's real important as we kind of pivot a little bit. You brought up the ominous R word, relationships. Can we say relationships, men and women? Oh gosh. And I hear that. Look at here. That's almost like the infamous words, hey, we need to talk. I'm like, but I don't feel like talking. I don't sometimes like why is it and why is it like, and I understand, you have to talk with and listen to. I get that. Mm-hmm. Don't start off with we have to talk, Andrew, we got to talk. I'm like, man, that sounds like Death March. Like, I don't want to talk when you bring that up. Like, what? Before we get into just men and women relationships, like, just start off with our families. Like, what do you see us doing well? But what's one thing that we're doing a good job, like in our families and communities? What's one thing that we are just still jacked up on it?
Well, as far as families in general, one thing that we're doing a good job of is getting back together as part of a family unit. But as part of that, what I think we need to do more importantly is we have to love family members enough to hurt their feelings. People are doing some wrong stuff, but we don't, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to ruin my relationship with that family member. And then they suffer the consequences, right? I always use the analogy of, okay, I get shot. Right. So you're the doctor, Andrew. I go to the U.S. and my doctor. You say, well, Wendell, hey, look, I want to take that bullet out of you. I know you're bleeding to death, but to put that scalpel in you, it's going to hurt more. So because I love you, I'm going to let you bleed to death. And that's what we do, unfortunately, Andrew, to some of our family members. We don't say what needs to be said. We're afraid of hurting their feelings.
So what you're saying is every once in a while, part of showing love is having that tough conversation. Like, even if we don't want to have it. And I kid around about we have to talk, but sometimes we have to be open to the we have to talk moments.
Yeah. I mean, communication is key. Communication really is the foundation. And it's not communicating until both of you agree on what was heard. A lot of stuff is not communication, it's just listening and people waiting for someone to shut up so they can say their own point. That's not listening. That's not communication.
So let me ask you this, because it's like, here we are, like, kind of going back and forth, sharing,
Mhm.
exchanging, but sometimes in communication, sometimes people get it twisted. Like, it's like sometimes people will interject, loud talking, or you need to agree with me versus here's what I think, here's why I think that way. And then giving you the same opportunity. And then, like, once we figure out what you think and why you think that way, where do we go from here? Do you feel like people like I don't know, like in today's times where some things are so microwavable and so immediate that people just get tired? People, quote, don't have the patience of letting things just play themselves out. Cause it's like, I'm just saying, like, I don't have a problem, like people disagreeing with me or whatever, but let me at least speak my piece if I'm letting you speak your piece. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm in violent agreement with you. You allow people to speak their piece. And here's the thing. I always tell people I'm not running a popularity contest. Whether you like me or not, that's 100% up to you. But whether you respect me or not, that's 100% up to me. I won't be disrespecting any conversation. I will show you respect. You have to show me the same respect, or it's in the conversation. And I'm like Snagglepuss, exit stage left.
Exit stage left, but you look like you carry a big stick. You'll be exit stage left and bopping somebody upside the head. It's like, I done told you, just like you're talking about earlier. It's a tough conversation, but I love you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a Christian man, so I'll give you the right hand of fellowship and the left hand.
The right hand of fellowship, the left hand of grace. Mm-hmm.
That's
That
right.
sounds. Wait, I'm about to say that's a sermon right there. I'm gonna borrow that. The right hand of fellowship and the left hand of grace.
There it is.
I
Preach,
know
brother.
that my Redeemer lives. Look out now.
Let's take an offering, man. You done preached the message there.
Look at here, and when you mentioned that, because I used to be on the board of the School of Divinity, so in other words, I can give the right hand of fellowship and the left hand of grace and just say peace be with you if I knock somebody out. That's what you're telling me.
That's right. They're peaceful because they're knocked out. You gave them some rest. He said, peace be still. They're lying still. It's all biblical, man.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna be like, well, I learned. What did you learn? I learned that I can give you behind whipping as long as I use the right hand of fellowship and the left hand of grace and say peace be still and God bless you.
Exactly.
It's
You
a it's
good.
it's a justifiable tough conversation. We can have it verbally or we can do it someplace else.
It's 100% biblical. You can quote me on that.
But getting back into the whole relationship thing, like you made a good point, about family and community. But we know the hot topic, and you know what month it is. It's September, and it's the urban legend of cuffing season. You might not have those problems. I mean, I'm just saying, you might not. But like, what's one thing you see that's going right in regards to like how men and women engage and interact with each other? And what's one thing is like, son, you gotta pump your brakes right quick. And after you answer that, we're gonna have Gary. I'm gonna throw that question back to Gary. So what's one thing that men and women, quote, are doing well to engage with each other? What's one thing was like, bruh, sis, like, you need to start over. You need to go sit down somewhere.
It's two sides of the same coin. One thing that people are doing right initially in relationships is being open and honest with each other, right? On the flip side of that, in the beginning of relationships, people are acting better than Denzel Washington in Training Day. They're fake and they're phony, and then you grow to know that person. You're like, who that? Like you're in New Orleans saying, who that? So communicate openly and honestly, be yourself. And if it doesn't work out, at least you saved a lot of time. You can still have a beer at the barber shop.
I might need a beer. I might need some jack. I might need some ginger and jack. I might need a little something. So Gary, good to join. And
Hey, Gary.
hey Gary, before I throw the same question I threw at Wendell, give the back where you're based out of and things along those lines. Gary, it looks like he just slid off for a minute, but we're gonna get Gary back on. But yeah, you make a good point. Like, it kind of like we said before, like if we're talking for understanding and like you said, being open and what you just said isn't just like men and women relationships, that's just in general. Like,
Mm-hmm.
be open, be honest, be willing to have tough conversations, let people know who you are, where you're coming from, then you can kind of figure it out. And I know this sounds tough, and I might get kicked out of this, but every man relationship doesn't necessarily mean you getting them draws. I'm just saying.
No, you're 100% right. And the best way to get into the draws is to build a relationship ahead of time. Foreplay doesn't begin just in the bedroom.
They say what capture the mind will follow. Speaking of that, we are following Gary Davis back in. Gary, how you doing, bro? Okay. Hey, Gary, you might want to see if you can log out and log back in because you're kind of
Yeah, I don't know. My Wi-Fi signal.
Yeah, Gary, like real talk, seriously, see if you can log out and log back in because we know you got something to drop, but we just can't really get it at this point in time. See if you can log back in, see if that works.
Yeah, and if that doesn't work, try your phone hotspot. Sometimes the internet connectivity where you have may not work, but my phone hotspot usually works better.
Yeah, that's a good point because Wi-Fi can be oh my, like real
That's
talk.
right.
And it might not be good. So yeah, so hopefully we can get Gary back on. But you know, like you said, like some of the things you talked about with men and women, how we engage, how we interact is kind of universal. Like you said, like talk with, listen to, be open to having tough conversations and be honest. Like if you're just trying to run a sprint and someone's running a marathon, you might want to say that because you might have to have another running partner, for lack of a better term.
Exactly right. And even with that, if you're running a relay, you got to know when to hand it off. You know, if you're running a relay. And I tell people, I would rather argue with you than be quiet because at least you know where I'm coming from.
Ooh, wait, run that back for us one more time.
I'd rather argue with you than be quiet because at least you know where I'm coming from.
And you know it because I heard about them quiet people. Them quiet people ain't playing with full deck. You know how folks are, and they get mad and they like blow up a city block, and it's like, with me, I just had a bad day. Nah, bro, you had some problems.
That's right. Talk it out.
Exactly. That's the one time where the loudest person in the room might be okay. Now we know the loudest person isn't necessarily the smartest, but at least if you loud, I can hear you. If you quiet, I don't know.
It's like that other thing we talked about, silent but deadly, you know.
Khalid, take me at 237. Khalid, 237, please. Thank you.
Gary, you back?
Gary,
yes, I'm not sure. Yes. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm in the studio in a basement in the city, Manhattan. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear me too well.
Oh, we hear you up 5 boroughs. What's up?
Is that a? Oh, hey, how you doing?
Hey, good, from Jersey. So yeah, you know.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Well, I'll do the best I can. I don't know. What was the question you asked?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw this question at you, Gary. This is what we threw to Wendell.
Nice to be with you, by the way.
Comes to relationship.
Yeah, likewise.
And when women are doing well, but what's when they're like totally jacked up?
Well, that's a hornet's nest right there. Listen, I think one thing I will say, I think we can do well. We can do better communicating. I'm not sure who's doing better now, our brothers or our sisters in that regard.
The sisters. I'll tell like it is a sister to the whole better job.
Listen, I can say one thing that I can say is I think the new generation is totally engaged in the effort for the equality, the racial equality. I think the millennials kind of dropped out there for a while, so I'm not quite sure. I can't really answer that fully. I don't know. I see the guys tuning out to some of the things that the women say from what I hear. But if you hear from the women, you know, their men totally don't show up. The brothers, that is. I can't say, well, I wish I could. That's part of my frustration. I can't say that black men are doing anything particularly well. I can't say that black women are doing anything particularly well. I think we're failing each other, honestly. I see that a lot of the you have the grass is greener approach, and when you give up on your brothers and your sisters, you head for another ethnicity, and and we sort of lose out. So I don't know if I would be a good person to answer that question. I can't say that I see either of us at a sunny place right now.
Well, but for real though, you make a good point. Like when we see foolishness popping up, part of it is like you said, we're not like Wendell and I were talking earlier. The difference between talking with and talking at. Like if I talk with you, I'm gonna listen to what you have to say. If I don't agree with it, I'm gonna listen to you, so I kind of know how you think and I have a better idea of how to approach and how to engage. The problem is, I think we just don't do it consistently enough. Like, I mean,
I would tend to agree with that. I would tend to agree with that. At least we're talking, I think, about serious, real issues more so now than we probably ever did before. That's the most optimum thing I think I could say currently of us.
Mm-hmm. Wendell, what do you think? Like, in adding to it, because like some of the things you said earlier are definitely things you can apply across the board. But how would you, kind of add to that? What you think? Are we on point? Are we off target? Is it kind of bits and pieces? Like, what do you really think?
I think we're on point. I think we're on target. I think we're making tremendous progress. However, we got one major obstacle, and that's the mainstream media. They want to portray us in a certain way, and a lot of us fall for that, and that's really not the truth of the matter. I mean, for example, I give men a simple one: to improve communication. If you're in bed with your woman and she wants to talk, first thing you should do is sit up. I'm telling you, if you lay down and that soft voice of me talking to you, next thing you know, you're going to be asleep. And that's very bad for communication in other parts of your relationship. So I believe we're making progress. I believe that communication is a lot better than what it used to be in the past. I mean, you think about it. I don't know about you. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, right? And back then, a real man didn't talk. A real man kept his feelings in, right? And now we feel empowered to speak out more and to talk more. I've got close friends that I talk to, about stuff I would never talk to anybody about. I mean, my fiance, I talk to her about stuff that I used to just keep in, so I feel free now to share it, and it's a lot better. And my stress level has gone way down. My level of intelligence has gone way up because I talk to smart people.
That's an interesting one. That's definitely an interesting one. I think, when you talk, just have something to say. Like, when if someone's like, you know what I mean? No, I don't know what you mean.
Right.
No, I'm talking about, I don't know what you're talking about. All this type of thing. Like it might sound basic, but talk to someone as if this is the very first time they're hearing something. It's not to insult their intelligence, give them, a starting point. Now, all of a sudden, go in or do it in bits and pieces or whatever. But I think, and I think, like, from the elders, like, the best advice, when I talk, you listen. When you talk, I listen. Mm-hmm. But you kind of listen for understanding. Because if I'm not understanding you, how am I going to be able to work with you? How are you going to be able to work with me?
You got to have the courage to clarify, too.
Oh, wait. See, look at you running gems. You're doing alliteration stuff. The courage to clarify. Who brings that? Who? Like, let's back one more time. The courage to clarify.
The courage to clarify is to don't pretend that you know everything. Don't pretend and don't even make an assumption that you know what whoever you're talking to is talking about. Clarify. Ask clarifying questions. Baby, honey, you know how I feel. Baby, no, I really don't.
Look at you. We're supposed to be chopping it up, and you're giving like thesis. You sound like Wu-Tang talking about atomically. Socrates can drop these philosophies and all that type of thing.
That's just the way I talk, though, man.
Okay, and but you know what? But even still, like, you made a good point. Like, even what you just shared, it's like, this is how I talk. This is how I express. This is what I think. This is how I'm thinking. Even still, it's like that comes to like talking with and listening to is like, this is how you roll.
Right.
And how you roll, I have a better idea of how to approach. And now that I know how to approach and vice versa, even like you said before, we set the stage for having those tough conversations. We set the stage for going in on stuff. Gary, what would you like to add? Because we got like, the Hippocratic oath in the corner up here. the philosopher king.
No, listen, the brother makes sense, and I agree with him. I mean, when you're gonna either sink or swim when you are put out there intellectually. I mean, we all have to be responsible for being intelligent, having an intellect, and communicating primarily. What I would like to add, though, I wasn't aware of, and maybe until recently, the last 5 years, maybe, that women and men uh, talk. We communicate differently, and I guess I wasn't really aware of that over all these years. So that's another thing, how we communicate, the different types. Women, they evidently are one way, and we are another way when we approach. Men are maybe more logistical, women are or less so to some degree. Some women are. So I think that's a big factor too. Figuring out how to best communicate with each other before we actually get into any content, any heavy conversation. So that would be the only thing I could add. But I like how I like how the brother goes about his
So
his
thank you,
com-
Gary. I
yeah.
appreciate it.
We I think we need more of that. I think we need often, and I don't have an issue with the media, because I don't really listen to any of it. I just I go with what I feel is right, and I've always done that. What I feel makes sense. So I think people are swayed because they decide what they want to engage with, whether it's a conversation from a news commentator or a friend. You have, but in the end, it all has to make sense. When you come to a round table, it all has to gel. People are going 9 times out of 10, 9 people out of 10 at a round table. You say something that is depthful. Like I can't even the gentleman. I can't find any issues with what he says because it makes sense. But you're gonna if you say something that's off base, you're gonna have 9 people looking at that one person. Like, where are you coming from? You know. So I think that's healthy. I think we need to have conversation even more so with ourselves, between the brothers, before we even talk to the ladies, because evidently there's a lot of things that they're telling us, the messages that we're getting from them, that things are not optimum. And I think we need to talk amongst ourselves and see if we can weed some of that stuff, because a lot of stuff we can weed out. There's a lot of nonsense that we kind of look the other way. I know I have in my life. I haven't necessarily been a party to it, but I know that if I don't speak up about it, and I condone it, if it's not something's not proper, or the approach isn't correct. You know what I mean? So I think brothers can really talk to each other. And I think that's what we do in the barbershop. I think that's what we do. We sort of have these conversations with ourselves, but sometimes we don't always speak up and speak from our heart, our true heart, how we really feel. Maybe we just sort of go with the flow. So I think I'd say that that's something that I think could help change and improve communication between brothers and sisters in general.
Yeah, I agree with that, Gary. I used to do men's workshops on relationships, even hard subjects like depression and suicide, right? And just getting guys to just talk, you know. And if a guy comes to you in confidence, keep it in confidence, because that may have been the first time that he opened up to somebody, right? Or if you're in church, oh, well, Gary shared something to me, so I'm going to share with the church. It's a prayer matter. No, it ain't no prayer matter. That's just good old-fashioned gossip. You just violated Gary's trust, and Gary may not ever open up again. So we got to be very sensitive.
That's an excellent point. People are at different places in their journey, and who are we to judge what that person has, where that person is? They might, like you said, they might not open up again if you respond to them a certain way. But the fact is, they tried. They
Right.
tried. But there's also, I think, there's two sides to that. You definitely, you open up. You definitely need to be checked as well.
Exactly.
You just can't say anything in a general public forum and not get feedback. And I think that's a healthy thing, and that should be sought after. Yeah.
But you know what, fellas, and y'all are dropping gems, but you know what? Here's the thing, like, all of us presumably are coming from like a clear frame of mind. And we know that everybody doesn't always approach or engage with, with their mind being right. Like, even with us talking right now, we've all had moments where it's like, hey, we haven't been as rational as we need to be, and we're aware and we're conscious of that. But we know that everybody isn't like that. And here's a good comment that was made in regards to men being more sensitive with a woman expressing herself, whether good or bad, because again, like, to varying degrees, we're all byproducts of our environment, and we quote, to use, some words from our philosopher king, we internalize what has been modeled and demonstrated, good, bad, or indifferent. And if we do not have the proper filters, we're going to, as they say, history, those are doomed, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. So, like, we're talking through a relatively rational mindset, knowing, hey, what have we learned from mistakes that we've made, and what are we still open to? So how do we better reach the folks that are just like clouded minded? And it's like, well, my mama did this, well, my daddy did this, that's what I'm gonna do. Like, how do we do a better job of reaching that audience that isn't going to necessarily pause and pump their brakes because they, quote, haven't had to, like they haven't been held accountable, or whoever they learned those life lessons from was reckless?
Gary, I'm gonna let you take that one first, brother.
No, that's true, and look, that's part of the problem. I mean, you can't lead if you're not, progressive. I mean, you can lead, but it's not going to be toward the light. So I think that's a good point that you make. We have to, discernment comes in there. You have to have someone or some entity that's going to decide, hey, this guy makes sense. He's going in a positive, progressive direction. And the other guys, we don't think this guy's going in the direction that we quite want to go in. So, it does matter who you hang out with, who you listen to, who you choose to follow. So that's how I'd say that it's a personal decision, though. Even a baby knows when he's not doing or he or she's not doing the right thing or adding the right direction. There's always like a question when, you see a child when they know they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, they'll act a certain way. So I think we all have a personal responsibility to decide, make a decision. Is this going to be a positive day? Or you're going to end up in a place that you don't really want to be. It might not be good for your future, and I actually, just to be short on that, and I was thinking recently, a lot of brothers that choose another direction, and we need to be open and honest about going into those institutions, volunteering, maybe doing some volunteer work on the faith tip, to help shed light on the fact that there is another way. And maybe, like you said, Andrew, you were saying, is it Andrew? I can't see it. My screen is real little. Maybe, like you were saying earlier, about sometimes people, men, women in general, they didn't have the right direction in life. They didn't have the right mentors. And we have to be conscious that, hey, it's the group's responsibility. It's the mass responsibility to try to help each other out if they're not heading down the right path. You got to grab somebody. You got to let them know, this is not the way to go, and here's why. And somebody has to speak up and say, take the first step. That's in right. That regard.
That's right. Yeah.
So I don't know if that helps. But that's my 2 cents.
No, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why that actually does.
Alpha 236. Alpha 236. And you meter above also 236.
And if we see there's an issue there, we got to be willing to do something other than play armchair quarterback. It's like, look, anybody can sit on the sidelines and say, well, this is going wrong, that's going wrong, this is going wrong, but what are we really contributing to help be better problem solvers? You made a good point. All of us, I think, at different points in time have volunteered, spoken, whether in schools or through nonprofits, faith community, even, Wendell, like what you're doing on the health end, that's still like stewardship and outreach and modeling and demonstrating like what you need to do in regards to better protecting, your physical health and prostate, what have you. Gary, with what you're dropping.
Albert 236. Albert 236. And you meter above also 236.
Better their behaviors, but it's almost like there's more of us out there, and there's more of us that need to be willing to roll up our sleeves from time to time. That's how.
Can I say something toward that?
Yeah.
I think more of us would be if more of us spoke to each other, openly and said, "Hey, we need to do something. Something's not right." The case in point, the Million Man March. I spoke to a lot of brothers that went to that, and they said they were changed. I didn't go to that because I didn't feel that I needed to change. I didn't think so. I was sort of reserving my space, but the brothers that thought that they needed to change, they went and they were changed. This was a powerful day. So, just reaching out and touching someone, talking to somebody else, and, hey, what's going on? What's happening in your life? I think that's a good first start. And I think really it's going to start with us talking, the men talking on the men's side to each other more. I think that's really a big, would help a lot in this regard. Talking to the women on others, that's a whole nother story. All these relations, these relations that we talk about, improving relations between men and women, especially men and women of color. But I think really guys need to have a conversation amongst themselves first before we approach the ladies.
You know what that sounds like? It's like, if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love somebody else? Look, see,
well, listen, things are cliche. Things are cliche for a reason, right?
But look at us having service in here. We've been dropping stuff for like Sunday, then people who miss Wednesday night Bible study. Look at this. Ladies, there are some men that have some faith and spirituality and groundedness about us. Sure do.
Yeah, and I tell you, and we have to stand up for each other, and they have to recognize, right? They will be interested. We don't have to even try to talk. They're just going to be interested because we're saying something that they like to hear.
Well, not only something that they like to hear, but something that needs to be heard. And like Wendell was saying earlier, part of communication is having those tough conversations and being open and acknowledging, hey, here's where we're falling short, but here's where we're doing it well. So it's like, yeah, it's okay to be critiqued for what we're not doing, but don't be stuck on you're not doing, because there are people who are doing. They might not always get the spotlight. And I said this before, like even for the interview I did earlier today, it's like, we all have a platform. Regardless of how big or how small it is, we all have a platform. And, use your platform accordingly and what have you. And you don't have to be the most famous person or 1,100 people. It's like, use your platform consistently, because as cliche as it is, all of us can reach somebody. So, right. As long as we understand that all of us can reach somebody, we can do a whole lot. And like you said, in regards to media, which, don't get me started on that. We know how mainstream media works. We know how it works. We all know the news editors are the decision makers. And if the news editors in general do not look like you, the narrative is going to be skewed. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It's going to be skewed. So
absolutely.
And Mary, to your point, what you were talking about earlier, and this is coming from a clear mind, do your own research. Look at other, look at alternative, platforms and what have you, and kind of do some research and think. Because otherwise people have you thinking, it's smart to go run out in traffic, but I ain't trying to get hit by nobody. Run out in traffic, you sure can. Just like I can fly an airplane if you want, but that thing's gonna crash, and if you're on it, you stuck on something, man. It's not smart.
Right. That's in the same guise as I've got a bridge in Brooklyn I want to sell you. Excellent points. Listen, can I chime in with something? I thought about something off of what you said.
Go ahead.
I used to work in a community. I primarily I'm a tennis instructor, and I work in after school in our communities. And I was in Crown Heights for years, working there. And this is ground zero. I'm not sure Ralph Avenue, Eastern Parkway. This is ground zero for a lot of sheltered families, just a lot of misery dealing with Black families and minority families in general. And I heard this statement in the news at some point about the how black fathers were, they would say, they trying to pull their kids and just kind of give you a general thing to the dark side. Say, come on, do drugs, do sell drugs, do this, do nefarious stuff. And it just brought to mind a story that I knew of. That I knew a drug dealing father that he's on the streets, and if he ever saw his kid on the street because they're supposed to be in school, it wouldn't be good. He was a good father, even though he chose another path for employment. Okay, so I challenge these people who make these statements that they talk about, us like they know us. And even in all my years, I've done this for almost 20 years now. In the minority communities, I've taught tennis, and I am challenged to even find one parent that has been a parent that is wanted to pull their kid to say, oh, like you can't do this, or that's nothing that for us don't do well in school. So just talking to the fact of the major media, the media in general. I'm just going to say the media in general. That's one of the reasons why I don't listen to those sources. It's interesting to hear what they're saying, but I don't. My opinion is formed by my ideas, and I think we have to be of the same mindset as a people. As there's a lot of people out there that they're willing to pull you back, but the fact is that wasn't factual information. In all the years I've been working, I've been on the street working. I have not once seen a parent trying to sway their kids from progressive education, careers, or just even school in general. They've always been progressive, even for the ones that aren't doing the right thing behind the scenes. They still encourage their kids to do well and be progressive.
I'll share this about the mainstream media. Maybe this will sum it up. I had a friend of mine, he used to be a reporter, right? And back then, before computers and all of that, they had this whiteboard. So say, Gary and Andrew, I want to send you out to Crown Heights, right? And I want you to do a story on Gary, the tennis instructor, right? Okay, I get right to go. But hey, wait. This is the angle that I want you to come back with. And this is a true story. They're not going out there being impartial. They are sent out there to come back with a certain narrative. And that's the story that makes the news. That's why in an interview 20 people, you see a snippet of the person that justifies what they came out there for. And the news is not designed to report news. The news is designed to sell advertisement.
Right.
We're in a capitalistic country, so that's the norm.
Or better yet, it's to varying degrees, it's designed to frame somebody's way of thinking. So when you see this type of person, these are the things you're conditioned to thinking about them.
Exactly.
And it's funny you say that, because and it's not just news in general. You see it across the board. This is a classic example I like to use. Tom Brady can cuss somebody out, talk about their mama, say their mama is like a doorknob, everybody gets a turn, but he's passionate. He's a champion. Let somebody else say something. Oh, he's malaise. He's a cancer. Come on. But they're doing the same thing. But part of it is, like you said, look at who's the decision makers who want a certain narrative put out there. And then, in football, just at level with you, we all know the majority of people who actually really cover, on the college and pro level, do not look like the majority of people who play that game. So you know what's going to go. You know what's going to happen.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
I'm, so next time I cuss somebody out, which is not going to happen because I'm a devout and practical.
Praise Jesus.
But if I were to, I just say, hey, I'm just Brady. I'm just taking after Tom Brady, so I can do it.
Sure. There's several books. There's several books that have been written about color, people of color in the news in the media. I don't know the author, but there's one particular book that was written several years ago that I think all people of color need to read, because then they'll get a different scope as to what, as the gentleman was saying about the capitalist society, and they're there to sell they're for sales. Basically, they're for sales. It's not to say that you're not going to stumble across some truth in their matter, but it definitely is something that we should be aware of what is, because if history, what is history? History is what your story is. If if you're listening to the history of someone that wasn't you, didn't look like you said, um, you're going to have a different story. Look at the 1619 project versus the standard, fare of what we've always heard. How upset am I to be that things that I had to research myself in my history of my own people were omitted from the history books? I went through 12 years of school, and I didn't hear a lot of what I was finally researched to find true. It wasn't in plain sight. Why?
Well,
So,
we all, Gary, it was intentional because, like, honestly, like texts like Before the Mayflower Stolen Legacy, I didn't come up on those until college. And while I was fortunate to be in some programs that would give you bits and pieces, but like you said, like in general, K through 12, with a few exceptions, you're not going to hear it, and it's done intentionally. Now, thankfully, like you said, with stuff like the 1619 project, if you've read Before the Mayflower, if you've read Stolen Legacy, Hold a Pale Horse, other stuff, it's like fills in those gaps, and now you understand that it's intentional. And now that you know that it's intentional for you to know,
right.
now back to your point, Gary, it's like take time to like pause and ask a few questions and do a little bit of digging. But some there's some people that don't want to do that, and they look like Boo Boo the Fool. Now,
I haven't heard that term in a long time. Boo Boo the Fool.
I'll tell you what, hang out with me. You're going to see it in here. Not from my stuff, of course.
Oh, no, praise Jesus. Hallelujah.
Hey, that's God did all the time. All the time, God is good. Yes, sir. Indeed.
Oh, absolutely.
But to your point, it's like you do have to take time to discover. You do have to roll up your sleeve, put in a little work, and don't be afraid of putting in some hard work. Hard work does pay off. Yes, it's important to work smart, but don't be afraid of working hard, and don't be afraid to discover, and don't be afraid like even you guys have thrown some questions out there that are going to pause and make me think and revisit some stuff and be like, you know what? Let me see where they were going with this and see how it can help me get a better idea of the bigger picture. Like, and that comes back to the whole talking with understanding versus I'm talking and I got the mic and I'm loud and all this and all that. Nah, bro, it's like, just listen to what someone got to say.
Yeah, and find out, first of all, what do you want to say between your left ear and your right ear? Show yourself self-compassion, know who you are, so when you have a discussion, you know what you're talking about. You're not easily swayed. There's a conversation that goes on there, and understand the rules of the game, right? Oh, well, America's this, America's that. Well, you understand America is based on capitalism, right? And the way to keep the economy going is people spend, and that's what it's about. Understand the rules of the game, decide if you're going to play, but most importantly, play according and win according to your rules, right?
Yeah, but let me please interject. If in case you haven't seen lately, we had a situation where we had an insurrection, and we can't even agree that was what happened. So when you say play by the rules, I get my kids to say to me that the president of the United States didn't play by the rules. Why do we need to follow rules? I've had children that I've been in my care to teach say that to me.
Mm-hmm. No,
so
Gary, let me correct it. I didn't. If I said that, I apologize. What I mean is, number one, understand the rules of the game. Number two, decide if you're going to play. And number three, play to win according to your rules. I'll give you an example. Me in a capitalistic society, right? I know kind of what capitalism is all about. And my plan to win is to do things that are going to empower our communities to be successful in this environment, and then educating people and giving the people the courage to decide what they're going to do based upon their own beliefs, which is one purpose of my podcast. So I want to have that correction here.
Okay, that's fine. But my point remains. It still stands. I mean, you have to acknowledge when you talk about a situation, you have to remember there are children watching, and they are listening, and they're always going to you have to explain stuff to them. Why is it like this? You get a million questions from kids. So I think that this conversation is a great start. I think maybe it might be off the topic of what you initially, we're talking about, the barbershop, conversation, but a lot of things come up in the barbershop. We don't only talk about
you
our
just flowed.
relations.
Yeah, the barbershop flows in the conversation.
Excuse me?
I said the barbershop, it just flows, and that's what we're doing here in the
Yeah, it
barbershop.
flows. It absolutely flows. And you
FLOW, we
never,
just flow.
absolutely, and you never know where it's going to flow to. So
But
it's always.
man, you got this flowing like the rivers of Lake Minnetonka.
but I think we have to concern ourselves with what the kids are saying. How the young men, what are the young men, what are they talking about? What are their concerns? These are the future fathers, the sons of the future fathers of the world. So we have to be concerned, and we got a lot of serious issues going on out there that have been affecting us, specifically us, for years. That with cell phones now, every cell phone's a camera, right? I mean, since Rodney King, all right. So these things are coming to the light. What's been in the dark for forever. So these types of things are things that it's just not about relationships with the opposite sex. I think it's a life. They're life questions that we all have to be responsible for. We all have to answer. Each one teach one. Okay, those philosophies that we grow up. I don't know about you, but I know for sure if I did something on 101st Street in the summertime, by the time that street lamp went out, when I got to 97th Street, my mom or my father would have known about it, and that wasn't my communication. So you had a network of community that cared, and they looked out for you, even though you weren't necessarily feeling that way at the time.
So true, so true.
That has to come back. We need that. This is us. This is who we are as a people. We look out after each other. We're supposed to help each other, mentor each other, help pull each other up from our enslaved and our ancestors that were raped and murdered and taken advantage of in horrific types of ways. This is who we are. We need to be there for each other, and that needs to be constantly a constant flow. It doesn't need to ever change. It should never change. We should never have a time that we're not there for one another as our people are.
And Gary, I'm in violent agreement with you. The assumption that you can't help everybody. Everybody doesn't want to get help. Some people just want you to enable them. You still reach out to everybody, but to me, you have to use discernment. Otherwise, you'd be tired and you'd be broke.
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
I find that when you engage people in a conversation, they have to say something, right? You have to make your point, whether it's going to make like it's gobbledygook or whether it's going to be like the most intelligent thing that you might say. So you will know by the response you get who you're dealing with and what approach you need to take at that from there on. So I just think it's a matter of having conversations. And you're right. Look, that conversation might be one you want to leave. That person wasn't quite where I thought they were. I don't have the time. I'm outie.
Absolutely.
So I think that gauge is healthy. I've done it on several occasions. Ned the winos on the corner, we got talking the same thing because he's a little inebriated, but he got some deep things to say. I think you brothers know when people get a little bit of gas in them, they do come up with some interesting truths.
Look at here. Pack a brown bag and some red cups and see what happens.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Well, listen, gentlemen, on that note, I have a client. I'm going to have to leave you, unfortunately.
Before you leave, Gary, thanks for jumping on. Let people know the best ways they can stay connected with you.
With me personally?
Yeah, just like any
Oh,
project. What do this before you step out? Share with us what's one project you have coming up, and what are the best ways for people to stay connected and engaged with you.
oh, well, my email is probably the best way. I mean, I've got several things going. One of which a former Broadway star. We're getting ready to do some serious music production, and I'm pretty happy about that. She actually just showed up tonight, and I won't mention
Congratulations.
her name because she probably doesn't want me to, but I would if I could. But yeah, and a lot of other things. I got a terrains. It's a project with three pianists, myself, George Smith, and another cat out of Africa. He's awesome. His name is Nana. And we got that. We're getting ready to go into George is getting ready to go into actually Power Station studio in the city and record in Studio A for that. I'll be on that. So my email is ghd1, the number one at hotmail.com. So yeah, anybody who is interested can reach out. I'll be happy to tell them what's going on.
Okay, Gary, thank you so much. Hey, until
Appreciate it, Gary.
hey, next time, peace, blessings. Keep doing the good things you're doing, bro.
Thank you, brothers. I really enjoyed this. I told some people at work that we were going to do this tonight. And I mean, my spine's tingling. I got. I hope that and you're very good, Andrew, at your, at how you phrase things, and So I just want to give you a shout out too. Okay.
Hey, man, appreciate it.
So hopefully we can do it again at some point in the future.
I
But
think
thank
so.
you for the opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity, and thanks to Shenita for asking me on as well.
No problem. Listen, Gary, till next time, seriously, you take it.
All right.
Take care, Gary. See you, man.
You too. Take care.
All right. So, Wendell, as we're getting close to winding down, let us know what's the next big project you have coming up, as well as the best ways for people to stay connected with you.
The next big project that I have is twofold. One is my podcast. It's called Inner Control, and it talks about a lot of things that we talked about. Inner control means understanding who you are between your right ear and your left ear, and having the courage to step out and be who you truly are. That's the purpose of my podcast. In addition to that, I'll be doing things like I did for prostate cancer this weekend, live event, but not just for prostate cancer awareness. A lot of them are just for fun. One thing in the making right now hasn't been finalized. It's on a certain night of the week, having a jazz event that I'll MC with live performers here in Atlanta, Georgia. And so we're looking at those are the two key things I'm doing: my podcast and my live events. And my podcast will be, it can go international because it's a podcast.
Sounds good. And let people know the best ways to stay connected with you.
Best way to stay connected with me is either with my Facebook account or my email address. Used to give people my personal phone number. I get so many calls now. I'm a man of my word. It's very hard to return calls now.
Might not want to do that as cuffing season too. You can get plenty of calls. Plenty of business calls. Yep, of course.
But yeah, man. But my whole thing is, the best communication is by observation, and just looking at people and looking at yourself and seeing what is that person doing. It's like the psychics, right? Oh, I can predict your future. You're going to have $1 million. I never seen a psychic house that looked more than a shack. I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying maybe they want to live in poverty since they know how to get wealth. But I'm not going to their shop because I learn by observation and by doing.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, Wendell, man, you did a great job. Thank you so much. And what I'll do is I'll take us on home these last 30, 45 seconds. For those of you up in the Triad, up in North Carolina, join me tomorrow on the campus of Wake Forest University from 2 to 4:30 at the main bookstore, where I'll be doing my next book signing. Many thanks to Jim Steele at WSNC Radio up in Winston-Salem, at the heart of Winston-Salem State University, for having me on as a guest. And of course, real quick, every Thursday, 7 p.m., Life with Shenita. This is part of what we do. And don't forget to get your copy of Is Your House in Order? It is a great resource. You need to do it because people falling off left and right. You need to have your house in order. Some of the things we talked about today. So again, as you see, like and share this broadcast. If this is your first time connecting with the people that you saw tonight, don't let it be your last. Don't do it. Don't let it be. Tell you.
I love it.
I've been endorsed by the best right here. So I'm just trying to tell you something, trying to help you out. That's what we're trying to do. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take good care, be safe out there, continue blessings, well wishes, and encouragement. And whether slow or swift, movement is movement, whether small or big, a victory is a victory. So keep it moving, keep it victorious, and tune in next Thursday for the next edition of Life with Shenita. We'll see you soon.